Today's topic: Indian slavery and Africans. Omission, not distortion, is the far more serious culprit in hiding the story of the Black Indians of the Americas. That quote by William Loren Katz from his book entitled Black Indians doesn't even begin to explain the enormity of omission of the dark-skinned indigenous people of the United States. One of the largest omissions is the Native American slave trade, and the hundreds of thousands who were enslaved on the mainland were shipped out of the country. Many were shipped well into the 18th century to the West Indies under the guise of punishment, since there were laws in place at that time against Indian slavery. These slaves, once in the West Indies or on the plantations of the South, would blend in with the other people of color being enslaved. So the islands and southern plantations inhabited not only enslaved Africans, but also dark-skinned Native Americans and the descendants of the original Native Americans who got doomed to perpetual slavery.
Today, a more accurate depiction of the Native Americans of the United States is beginning to unfold. Because history has been told to us by Europeans with the European point of view, we have, up until recently, been given our historical facts in a distorted manner. Author Carol Birkin, in her book First Generations, explains that historians have come to understand that they must handle journals, government reports, sermons, books, and diaries written by Europeans about Native Americans cautiously, as artifacts of European adjustment to cultural diversity, rather than true guides to Indian societies. This European adjustment has given us a distorted view and has allowed many misconceptions and inaccuracies to be perpetrated. Case in point, most people believe that the existence of dark-skinned people in the United States began with the African slave trade. The truth is, as writer Jack Forbes expresses in his book Africans and Native Americans, many, but not all Native Americans were of a dark complexion without African ancestry. Truth be told, it was the Native American slave trade that placed many dark-skinned Native Americans into slavery. And to keep these facts in obscurity, many books evade the subject of the Native American slave trade. William L. Katz, in his book Black Indians, says it eloquently when he states that omission, not distortion, is the far more serious culprit in hiding the story of the Black Indians of the Americas. Although many attribute the demise of many Native people to diseases that they did not have natural immunities to, one must examine forces other than disease, in particular, the commercial trade in Indian slaves, to the termination of many southern clans, tribes, and chiefdoms. During exploring expeditions in America, leaders like Hernando de Soto and Ponce de Leon needed a means to reward the services of their soldiers. Since other means of payment were scarce, slavery satisfied this need. Slavery was considered a part of any expedition of discovery and conquest. So, as stated in Indian slavery during colonial times, not to follow such a custom would have been acting contrary to the spirit of the times. We must remember that the tribes that were being enslaved, many from up and down the southeastern coast, were of a dark complexion. In the book Africans and Native Americans, Jack Forbes states, in 1524, the Carolina coast people were said to be of a dark color, not much unlike the Ethiopians. These dark-colored Native Americans were being enslaved and sent by the tens of thousands to the West Indies or retained in the colonies, such as described by Lauber, in 1671, the Cusco were sent to be sold out of the colony. Also, during the war with the Stono Indians in 1680, the captive Indians were to be carried to the West Indies as slaves. He describes 3 expeditions from 1702 to 1708 against the Yamasee, Appalachee, and Timucua of northern Florida. There was carried back to Charleston for sale as slaves almost the entire population of 7 towns. And last in this list, nearly all the Appalachee were distributed as slaves among the Carolina settlers. These scenarios were replicated thousands upon thousands upon thousands of times.
Today's topic is blood and Native identity. In 1897, the Smithsonian Institute's Bureau of American Ethnology wrote in its annual report that, and I quote, "The blood of the Southern Negro is unquestionably Indian," end quote. The Bureau, whose focus was on North American Indian cultures, was established in 1879 by Congress. According to the Bureau, and I quote the full quote, "As the coast tribes dwindled, they were compelled to associate and intermarry with Negroes until they finally lost their identity and were classed with that race, so that a considerable portion of the blood of the Southern Negro is unquestionably Indian," end quote. So you may ask, if it was known that the blood of Southern Negroes was unquestionably Indian, and Indian blood is what defines who an American Indian is, why is it difficult for dark-skinned people to claim their native identity? The answer lies in colonial laws, which made slave blood negate Indian blood. Greetings, and welcome to Indeed's Moments in Indigenous Education, which focuses on historical facts which have been omitted or forgotten. Please join us for today's topic. Today's topic, current events. Relevant in these times more than any in the past 100 years is the question of the dark-skinned native. With just one search, a vast spectrum of seemingly unrelated information appears on the internet. For people interested in investigating the dark-skinned Native American, due diligence is prudent indeed. As you investigate these people of color, you will be able to find citations, archaeological evidence, government reports, and statistical data verification. Yet the thought that will appear in most people's minds will lie in the question of the existence of the dark-skinned native. It is not our desire, nor would it be to our benefit, to propagate a theory that all black people in the United States are Native Americans. We also are not interested in theories which state all black people are African American. To the contrary, this would violate one of our fundamental rights of self-identification.